Hello, everybody. I'm Gary Jones. Welcome to Dial the Gate. You might know me as Chief Master Sergeant Walter Harriman, and that's how I knew myself when I showed up on the show SG1, Stargate SG1 for 10 years. And I've been privileged over the years to talk to many, many fans at conventions who came and chatted to me at my table, and I've had the best time. And here it is continuing because I'm talking to more fans. And today I'm talking to Keith. How do you pronounce your last name, Keith? Hommel?
It's Homel.
Homel. Keith Homel and Sally Whitesides. Welcome, both of you, and thanks for being here.
Absolutely. Thanks for having us.
Great to be here.
Great. What is the connection between you two? Like, you're obviously not in the same city.
Yeah, we met at I think the Chicago, one of the Chicago conventions, right? Yeah, and we started doing some charity work together, and that's kind of how we met and became friends. And we've seen each other at multiple conventions, and now we do a bunch of charity stuff together with all kind of Stargate themed.
Okay, so this is interesting. I've never, so did you show up just as fans and you met?
Yeah, pretty much. We kind of just started going to conventions, and there was like fan run auctions before we started doing them.
Right.
And then they kind of stopped, and Keith and I kind of were friends, and we met and we said, like, this is a really good thing. This is something that we want to continue, and we kind of want to grow. Let's talk about continuing this and what we can do.
Okay, very cool. And that's how a charity organization just starts. And just people this is the idea, we like it. Well, how do we do this? So what did you have to go through I know that I'm going to get to the fact that you've raised over $20,000 through your charity. What kind of, like, how easy was it for you to just start a charity, or talk me through that?
Yeah, so actually that's a little bit confusing because we don't actually have our own charity. We support another charity. These days it's Dysautonomia International, and Sally will talk a little bit more about that as we get on. But we just support different charities. We started out actually because they were going on before we started. Before 2014 was really the first one that we kind of worked together on. And that was for Covenant House Vancouver, because we had been talking with Tara Rothery, and she had generously donated some of her time for a kind of a one-on-one, meet type of thing outside of the convention, just for us, so we could auction it off and then support her charity, which was Covenant House Vancouver. So it just kind of bloomed from there, but it didn't even start as anything. It just was kind of, hey, we're doing this thing. You want to help out? I'm like, sure. And it kind of blossomed from that. And then we just, organized more every year. And then every time basically the Chicago convention happens, we would put on an auction. And we thought once that convention stopped, that we were going to be done. But then it started up again, and we said, hey, we should do this again. And even if it doesn't continue, even if the convention doesn't continue, we should really try and make this thing happen and keep it going. That's kind of how we got together and organized a little bit more, and that's our charity that we support.
That's very cool. Is it? And so you guys, have you become like sort of closer and better friends? Like, you didn't know each other as well before this all started, right?
Yeah, I would say so. I think, we both have our strengths. Keith is really good at design, and he can design websites and graphics and things that I'm not really good at. And I'm really good at coming up with, I would say, like, the right things to say, maybe, or like the words to put on our websites, or things to say to people, or that kind of thing. So we both have our strengths, and we work really well together. So I think, we both have our strengths, and we play really well together, and so, that's a really good thing to have. But we're also, becoming closer as friends, and I think that's a really good thing to have too.
And did you say that there's the charities are Stargate themed or Stargate related, or how does but I mean, beyond meeting at a convention, how does Stargate fit into your charity work?
Yeah, it's really just started from going to the conventions, and so everything's kind of Stargate themed as far as for the auction. Although it's not only Stargate items, it's really whatever. But Stargate is a major theme in the auctions. So we've had screen worn costumes and props, real props, screen used props, and all kinds of other stuff. Everything from just somebody donating like a keychain all the way up to like I said, screen worn costumes and things like that from Mana tapping, and we had some other things. We had some Chris Judge stuff, and so just a bunch of other stuff that we were able to get in, all from very generous Stargate community members who donate all these things for us. So it's really been just great interacting with all the fans and all the community. Everybody's so generous, donating these things and helping us out. And like we mentioned before, our charity we're supporting. We have been supporting and going forward we're supporting is Dysautonomia International. Sally, maybe you want to talk a little bit about that charity and how it relates to you.
So I think it really started. I when Keith and I kind of joined together, I said, could we use this charity? It's something that is special to me. I have dysautonomia. It impacts me. And so I said, can we support this charity?
Can you just speak a little bit about what that is, and so that fans can understand?
Yeah, definitely. So dysautonomia is the dysfunction of the autonomic nervous system. So the autonomic nervous system is like everything that you don't think about doing on your own. So it's supposed to regulate things that you don't think of doing naturally. So blood pressure, heart rate, digestion, all those things that you do naturally. That's something that the autonomic nervous system is supposed to do. And if you think of it as something like a switch, so like a switch either goes on or off when the autonomic nervous system misfires. And it can happen after a viral infection, after someone's bedridden for a while, after a prolonged pregnancy. Doctors are still really trying to figure out why this is happening in so many people. So there's not a lot of research out there about it because it's not necessarily rare, but it's just not well funded. Doctors don't recognize it really well. So there's Dysautonomia International works to send funds to, they do a lot of things, but they send funds to research. They work with doctors so that they are trained in recognizing it. They also work with like newly diagnosed patients and like how the correct treatments and stuff like that. So they're a really good nonprofit and they do a lot of different things. But there's not a lot of money coming in for it. So It's a really great nonprofit. And so when I connected with Keith, he was really great in saying, yes, I think this is really good charity that we should support. And then, it was really great because even after the first year, I had Stargate fans coming up to me, people that I didn't know, and saying, thank you for, supporting this charity. I have an invisible illness, or I had someone come up to me and say, my husband just got diagnosed with this. We spent, 5 or 6 years trying to get diagnosed, and we just got diagnosed. And that was after the first year. And I said, this is something bigger than me. This is something bigger than us.
Right.
We have to keep doing this.
I guess it's like on a kind of a less extreme example would be somebody who suffers from something like fibromyalgia, where it's just a general sort of pain that runs through the body, and if the person is asked to sort of pinpoint it, they can't, and like you say, it's the whole invisibleness of it, like that people have a tough time relating to. It's like one thing when you break your leg and you've got a cast on your leg,
right.
And you broke your leg. But if you say, oh, I've got this condition where the switch to just turn on my digestive system is like faulty.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, well, listen, Keith and Sally, thank you so much for coming on Dialogue Gate and talking to me and letting us know about your charity. And before we go, maybe you could just let people know what your the name of your website that they can donate to. So go ahead and tell us that.
Absolutely. Keith, you want to tell them?
Sure. So the URL for the website is sgcharityauction.org. So like Stargate charityauction.org, but a little shortened. So sgcharityauction.org. We accept cash donations through the site directly, and we're also looking for obviously items for the physical auctions that we have every year at the every year that the Chicago convention happens anyway. Yeah, we're currently accepting donations either way. I don't know if you have anything else to add to that, Sally.
I think that's it.
All right.
I will go through some of my things and see if I can find anything that I can maybe send to you.
Oh, that'd be amazing.
And I will.
That would be great.
Yeah, so I will do that too, because I've got things like scripts and all sorts of weird little things that I ended up with from the show. So I'll see what I can dig up and get over to you at some point, and maybe I can either go on your website, or I can contact you and get your addresses and send them over. That'd be great. I'd love to. Yeah, you're welcome.
We would really appreciate it. Thank you.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you so much, Keith and Sally, for joining me today. We'll talk soon, okay?
Thank you. All right, talk soon.
Bye-bye. Hey, everybody. Thanks for watching this episode. Hey, do you want to share your Stargate story on air with me? Email the show at dialthegateshow@gmail.com. That's dialthegateshow@gmail.com. Tell us a little bit about how Stargate has helped you grow as a person or affected your life in a positive way. And I'll be recording more fan interviews in 2021, and you might be next. See you next time.